Man, it's home. 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 You've been tuned in to Mask Off, with conversation will rule the nation on face-to-face basis when we blast off. It's real on the asphalt, on the turf of the court. Yeah, we here for the sport, so take your mask off so I can hear your ass talk. Let me hear you explain. Hold the thoughts on your brain. Is your ass smart? Spit facts and real talk. I need that shit from the street that make you think real deep and take a long walk. This podcast is hella lit with my man J.D. Fence and Skizzo Blizzo.
What it do, family? Welcome back. Back in the building, man. Mask Uncovered Podcast. You got yours truly, J Defense. That's JAYDFENCE on all platforms. Mask Uncovered on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Mask Uncovered Podcast.
You know it. Your boy Hollywood Skiz. We back at it again. Shit. Want to go through this sponsor again? Let me pass the Dutchie from the left hand side. Banana liquor, please go and get it. We're gonna push this down your throat, man, till you go get it, man. Go to the local liquor store, ask for it if they don't have it. Like we said, it's in 101 liquor stores in Massachusetts. A few in Brockton and more on the south side, right? More of the liquor stores that have them on the south. I don't know about north, but maybe by next podcast we'll be able to give you the locations in the hood, wherever they're at. But please go and get it. Banana Liquors, man.
I don't know what it is, man. Banana Liquors, man. We got a special guest in the house, man.
Peace.
Mr. John C. Mr. Williams, John Williams. Special guest in the house. Potential mayor throwing his hat in the ring out here in Brockton, running for the mayor. But we're going to give you a little in-depth, a little bit more information on Mr. John, Mr. Williams.
First, let me run through his bio, then we'll start the interview, man. Bear with me. John C. Williams is the founder and program director of Champion City Mentor Program, a school-based mentor program contracted with Brockton Public Schools since 2013. As a youth growing up in Brockton, John was involved in activities that led him to spend 6 years in county and state prison. John returned to Brockton with a vision to have a positive impact on the community. He quickly became a voice in the movement for Corey reform and volunteered for community organizations such as Brockton Peace Crusaders, the Old Colony, YMCA, Brockton Boys and Girls Club, Latin Health Institute, Brockton Interfaith Community, and many others. He also helped as an organizer on the mayoral campaign, which was followed by a campaign of his own for city councilor at large in 2009. John was hired as the lead peace advocate for the city's first street outreach program, and after resigning in 2011, began his own mentoring program, Champion City Mentor Program. Champion City Mentor Program has assisted low-performing students in turning around their behavior and academic performances within the gateway to college at Massasoit Community College, Southeastern Regional Vocational Technical High School, and within the Brockton Public School System. Through in-school mentoring, family connections, after school, and summer program. So let's get into some of these questions, JD.
Yeah, well, obviously that's just the bio aspect. That's the paperwork on the side, man. But, obviously we got Mr. John here. Did you want to add anything that was more important or impactful in your life that got you into this running, or?
I'm just a young man from Brockton. I went to school here. I went to George S. Payne School, East Middle School, Brockton High School, Massasoit. I played ball at Massasoit. I've been a basketball coach in the community. Even more than that, I'm a husband, I'm a father. I just see some things in our city that can change, that can improve for our future generations. And I believe that with more forward-thinking leadership, we can be a more progressive city and more up to par with the progressive cities around the country, and even be pioneers in some of the things that are coming up in this society.
Okay. So obviously, I'm not from Brockton. I've been living here for some time now, and through my passes, what have you, is I ran into you or what have you, asking around, I got to learn a little bit more about you and some of the programs that you've been associated with. Your background and your lifestyle, like, is so different from, your typical politician, right? So I guess the jump right into politics, right? Like, so it's one thing to be a part of the community that you once terrorized or was a part of, or add a negative to the community to give back some positive coaching, running programs and stuff like that. That's a typical step. Not for everybody, but that's usually a route that we see a lot of people take. Why politics? Why run for mayor?
At this time, it's really a question of timing. We're at a point in our city where we've had the old regime here for a long time. We're not progressive at all. When you look at our city, the traffic in our city, we just had another big accident with two 11-year-olds that were hit on the south side of the city. We've had too many accidents where they've ended up fatal, right? Simple solutions like figuring out where to put speed bumps, raise crosswalks to slow down some of the traffic. You got people flying up and down Main Street. Fixing the quality of life in the city. Economically, we could do a lot better by investing in things that are more sustainable, investing in some of our young entrepreneurs. Those things are revenue generating that are low cost to the city, at low cost to the taxpayer, because right now you have to maximize what your return is going to be on your investments, right? And the best thing to invest in, to me, is the people that are right here, because there are some positive things happening in Brockton when you look at the long-term development of things, when you look at the new public safety building, but then you got to look into all the architecture contracts, things like that, make sure people are getting a fair shot. But those positive things that are happening, we're also seeing a rise in the cost of living here, a rise in the cost to pay rent here, or mortgage, a rise in property taxes. So we have to figure all of the positive things that are happening here. We would want the people that live here to benefit from that. And so in order for that to happen, we need leadership that's focused on the betterment of the people here in Brockton, the residents that live here, not contractors, not political benefactors, none of that. The people.
You want to throw something out?
Of course I do. And like I said, reading your bio and talking to you, seems that you come from the same streets and same environment that we do. And becoming a police officer, work for the fire department, any political position in the streets, without the knowledge I have now, they look at that as a sellout. A lot of people would say, like, to become a political leader, a police officer, you have to conform to an agenda that's already there. So do you think now, as deep as you are and you're about to run for mayor, that is some truth to that?
Not at all. Not in my case. I mean, that depends on the person. When you talk about selling out, you got to ask yourself what that truly is. You know what I mean? I'm running for my community. You know what I mean? Anyone that views that as selling out, they have an ignorant standpoint. They have to really look at what it is we're trying to do for our community, what it is we're trying to do for our kids. There are a lot of beliefs that I grew up with that I had to let go of because I recognize that it's counterproductive for me personally. It's counterproductive to my children. It's counterproductive to my community. And so I would challenge those people to really look at their situation, especially if they're grown, if they're my age, really look at their situation, look at their kids, and look at what they want their children to grow up in. If we want to continue to make the decisions and hold the beliefs that we've had to keep our community in an oppressed state, then hey, more power to you. But I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on the people who look at our community and want to see progression. And those are the people I'm running with.
But do you think you can make a change when we haven't seen any changes? Like, do you think you could be different than your previous assessors? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying you're going to be a sellout, but when you run for something like as important as a mayor, there is an agenda. Not saying that, you know what I mean, you don't go into there and you can't dictate everything and make every change that people want. So there is a different standpoint where you have to follow some type of structure. So what I'm saying is, with every mayor before you, I don't think there's been any great change. Do you think you can make a change that people will see and feel?
I think we can make immediate changes that people can see and feel, because the difference is we are already connected with the people. This isn't a situation where I've gone outside of the people. I haven't been connected, to the people. I live on Spring Street. You know what I mean? I ain't talking about Spring Street up by Moraine. I live on Spring Street down by BFC. So a lot of
Springfield.
you know what I'm saying? Spring Street. And so like a lot of the people that I connect with every single day are people in the community. People don't know me from, seeing me in politics as a politician. They know me because I've helped their children, or I've helped them through a situation, or I helped their cousin get a job, or I helped them get a job. I've never detached myself from the people. So I don't ever worry about being looked at as a sellout. I don't ever worry about being looked at a certain way. But I also know that because I've invested so much in my people, those are the people I'm looking to vote me in. And we have the numbers. It's whether or not we'll come out and vote or not. Right. I'm not pandering to the other side because I know what I have to do. I know what my purpose is. And I know what we can do if people support. And if they do support, that means that they're engaged. And if they're engaged, then we can make that change together. That's one thing that people running for mayor, they never come out and do. They say, look, I got this plan. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to lower your taxes. I'm going to lower your crime rate. Right. I'm going to make your schools better. I'm saying to you, listen, we can do that. We have a plan, but we all have to be engaged to make these things happen because, like you said, there is an agenda. And so as the mayor of Brockton is a Plan B government city. And so that's shortened as weak mayor, strong city council, right? And so the mayor has to be able to work with the city council.
Sorry, say that again?
So a Plan B government city, right? That means there's the city council makes most of the decisions in Brockton.
Right.
The thing about the mayor is when it comes to the budget, he has final say on the budget. The city council can say, look, well, that needs to change and they'll go back to vote. But the final say will be with the mayor, right? We've had mayors in the past who have overextended their power. Right. We've had mayors in the past who haven't done much of anything. But one thing has been consistent. When you see the person that gets into the position of mayor in Brockton, they're always connected to certain families. They're always connected to certain people who have the real agenda of Brockton, right? I'm not connected to any of them.
And that's what makes you different. And I'm going to let my co-host add a few questions after I add this. I don't know too much about Brockton. I grew up in Roxbury, the beast of Roxbury, and I've seen a lot of mayors come and go, but I've seen my people in the same position, the same predicament, and I've never felt, coming from where I come from and where we've come from, I've never felt like a difference from whoever was mayor, whoever was city council. Like it's never affected my community, so it's just hard to believe that one person could make a change that we can all feel in the community. That's speaking from coming up in Roxbury.
And I'll give you a sort of an explanation for that. You're from Boston. Right. Boston's a Plan A city. How many black mayors have you had in Boston? How many mayors have you had that you think that you feel are really connected to the city, to your community?
I've like I just told you,
And
anything connected I haven't felt because
and so you've had city councilors that were black,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But Boston's a Plan A city, strong mayor, weak city council. So your mayor makes decisions for you. And so if you haven't had somebody in that mayoral position that's connected to the people, you're never
Yeah,
gonna
it's
see a
not.
change there. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But staying on that too, right? Like, so it looks like you're saying you're more like of a people's person, people's mayor, right?
Mhm.
Like, so when you talk about like the politics of it all, like you said, instead of coming here saying, "Oh, I'm going to decrease the taxes and I'm going to fix the schools," and it, do you look at that as a plus or minus when you're talking about running for a political office? Like, so how many people are willing to buy into somebody that's saying, okay, I'm willing to work with you, work with me. Let's make this a reality. Versus people hearing the same rhetoric, right? Like some people get used to, they want to hear, oh, hey, I'm here and this is what I'm going to fix your streets. I'm going to fix your schools. And although they run on those things and say those things, typically it doesn't happen, right? So, but people are still conditioned to hear that
follow
from
that.
somebody, right? So they want to follow that. So to break them from that norm of, okay, I'm not preaching that, I'm preaching this. Work with me. What is your message, and how do you deliver that, and how do you think people will receive it? Like, I don't want it to be too fully
Yeah, I
loaded in.
like that.
Okay.
I like that though, because one thing that we're doing right now, as a matter of fact, I just had a session last night. We got a couple sessions. We got one coming up Sunday morning. Um, we have our multimedia people. We're going throughout the city, and we're showing people. We're walking through the city, and we're showing people where improvements need to be made, right?
Okay.
And how those improvements can be made. Because I know you drive through the city, and every election year, it's an election year now, you're seeing some of the roads getting fixed and stuff like that.
Horrible.
But still, as a whole, you're like, man, why are you gonna patch this part of the road right here, and that's it? You got a whole another stretch where I'm tearing up my wheels. So there is funding that the state gives. All you have to do as a city is meet certain requirements, right? And we've looked this up. Brockton hasn't even taken steps toward meeting those requirements, right? And so those simple things, they're really simple things that can happen. We're trying to point out how much our city leaders are truly just dropping the ball. There are resources in this city. This is the biggest city in the county. We get the bulk of the resources when it comes to federal funding, right? State funding, it comes right through the county first, and we get the most of it. So why is it that, like you're saying, we don't see anything? We don't see no changes. We don't see any changes in our schools. We just got $53 million to our schools, and now we're crying that we have an $18 million deficit. We just fired 130 teachers. How does that happen? And so
They dropping the ball.
when you look at the things that you've seen from me in public, and you've seen the reactions, from the school superintendent at the school committee meetings, and I've spoken, and the president of the National Parents Union has spoken. In this city, we have really just suffered from mismanagement and leaders who haven't cared about the people in the city. We're looking to put that out there. And like I said, it's up to the people to care enough about their situations, care enough about their children, care enough about their community to make the right decision.
Okay, we definitely have a couple of guests in the house. They chose not to be on camera, so forgive us, but you'll hear their voices. It's a couple of tall men. I mean, you have any questions for?
So you're saying that Brockton is a Plan B city,
Yeah.
where it's a strong city council, but the mayor would be
They'll say weak mayor.
would be considered weak. So how do you, as a mayor, if the city council, like you said, I understood what you said about the final
Budget.
budget would be the mayor's approval.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's how do you work with the city council that's not willing to work with you? If they want to keep the status quo, how do you make those changes in order to get things through?
And that's where you have to understand that it's politics, right? And you have to build the relationships and get the people, once again, because the people elect city council too, right? So in order for them to stay in their position, they have to be reelected into those seats. So it's getting the people to understand, look, just like you voting for me, you voting for them, right? And so when these issues come up, pay attention to what's going on. I think our city does a poor job of communicating to its residents what's going on in the city. A lot of things that are being voted on, a lot of the decisions being made at city council meetings, no one's telling the residents we're voting on this. How many people know that next week we have a city council meeting about how to spend the marijuana tax, right? And so these meetings happen, and then they'll say, "Oh, we went to the public. The public didn't respond," or they had a city council meeting or a school committee meeting talking about the fiscal year, a public hearing to hear the public's views on the fiscal year 24's budget. They had that in conjunction with the National Junior Honor Society. So coming in, you had to come in with all of the kids and parents with that, right? So if you got there at 6:40 like I did, you had to wait in line. I didn't get into the theater until 6:48. By that time, they adjourned so they could do the National Honor Society. When they came back, they said, "Oh, we had held a public hearing. Nobody was here to say anything." You know what I mean? And so I think we have to communicate things to our residents. And I've been doing that as a resident, never mind as the mayor. I've been putting things out there to the people, regardless of what it would do to me personally. Honestly, I don't have to do any of this. I had a contract, 6-figure contract with the city. I could have just sat down, shut up, did my job, and moved on. But now people are seeing. When I said it 2 years ago, people couldn't see it because the money was there. They could hide it. But now that they blew through all the money, people were seeing. How? Wait a minute, 53 million. How did that disappear? And now people are seeing what I've been saying all this time, and I've been sticking with it because I really care about my community.
So let me ask a question regarding the members of the city council.
Mhm.
Like, do they have to be Brockton residents in order to sit on the city council?
Yes.
So they do actually have to live in Brockton.
Yes. And so we have 11 city councilors. There are 7 wards here. Each ward has a city councilor, and then you have 4 councilors at large. Councilors at large have to live in Brockton. Whatever ward you're running for, you have to live in that ward.
Any more questions?
So how many candidates currently are going to also be in the race for to become the mayor?
So there are 3 candidates for mayor right now, including myself. There's myself, there's the incumbent Mayor Robert Sullivan, and there's Hamilton Rodriguez, who is the owner of George's Cafe.
So I was going to say, so out of the 3 candidates, including yourself, why would we vote for you versus the other 2 candidates?
Glad you asked that question. I feel that I'm more qualified because I'm willing to not only ask the tough questions and make tough decisions, but I also am willing to stand up and be accessible to the people, right? I feel I'm more in touch with what's going on in the modern day. I feel like I'm more in touch with what can make our city progressive. I believe that our young people, investing in young entrepreneurs, investing in digital creators, investing in esports academies, which has proven to raise GPAs, raise attendance rates in schools. But not only that, you give young people safe places to be. So when you take care of your young people, and then you look at, I feel our elderly have been severely underserved in the city for a long time. My father, before he passed, You know, he looked to utilize elder services in the city, and some of them are great. The Council on Aging is great, but I feel like our elderly are underutilized. And a society that doesn't take care of their babies and doesn't take care of their elders is doomed to fail.
So my question for you is, how would you communicate with the people of the city information? So in other words, one of the challenges that you mentioned is the fact that people are uninformed and that the city does a poor job of communicating with them. What would you do different than the previous mayors?
Connect with a lot of these influencers, and a lot more people are getting their news and stuff from their social media feeds than they are from the actual news telecast, right? And most of the time when you hear about an event, you hear about a concert or something like that, you're hearing about it online. Or somebody saw it online and then you hear it word of mouth. I think it's so much easier these days to communicate across vast demographics, whether you're trying to communicate to elementary age students or you're trying to communicate to 40, 50-year-olds. It can be done via social media, but also you have to create a space. Like Brockton actually has a website that is full of information, right? A lot of people don't go there. It isn't advertised to people a lot. So you have, and the mayor himself, the mayor of the city should be its cheerleader. You should see him. You should see him places. You should have consistent access to him. That's one thing that Mayor Carpenter did that I really liked. He gave you consistent access to him, whether you agreed with his politics or not. He was straight up with you. He'd have that conversation, and he wasn't afraid to defend the decisions he made, right? And he gave, like I said, he gave you that access. I think accessibility is the main thing, but there are so many things that we can do to promote this city and promote the things that we're doing and give and have conversations with people.
My next question to you would be, what is your vision for the city of Brockton as mayor?
My vision as the mayor of Brockton, like I said, I grew up in Brockton, and it was, our schools were safer, our community was stronger, there was a sense of Brockton pride. Um, that's not the full vision, but that's the root of it. My vision for Brockton is seeing a city that takes care of its citizens, that is being progressive and looking to grow its downtown, that is looking to make its streets safer, that's looking to take all of these abandoned buildings and look to put people in them, look to use some of these abandoned buildings and take care of some this homeless problem that we have. Start fixing some of the quality of life things. Uh, we have certain ideas about, you know, fireworks and panhandling that we're still going through with lawyers to see the legalities of it. But these issues have to be addressed. They can't just be laying out there for people to complain about. Um, my vision is to see a Brockton where our kids can go safely to the park, where where we have a nightlife, where we have places for young people to go, like I said, safe spaces for them to go where you as a parent can feel comfortable with your child going there and knowing that they're going to be in a safe place, right? I see the potential of Brockton because it's a very diverse city, right? I believe we can bring out its culture more. I think we can be a pioneering city when we talk about education because we have such diversity here. One thing that I want to institute almost immediately to make us safer, our police officers will be mandated to wear body cameras. We will enforce the police codes that are already on the books. Um, One thing that me and my team are already doing is going through not only the city's charter, but also each department has its set of rules and its set of policies that aren't followed. And so we want to put that out to the public. Listen, these are the policies of these departments. So when we're throwing out there generalizations, and one thing that I'm very adamant about as a black man and the father of 3 growing black boys, we had a documentary that I was in talking about the relationship between the police and the community. And one thing that
What's the name of the documentary?
Oh, Protect and Serve. Protect and Serve is an Emmy-winning documentary
Wow. See?
by Nubi Rato, one of the great young video audio visual people in the city, owner of Nubi Productions. But we're always taught that we're supposed to teach our kids, listen, when you're with the police, this is the way you act, this is it, and that's that, so you can live. But I think our police need to learn their policies. Because the policy in Brockton is, and this is no reason for anybody to disrespect a police officer or anything like that, but our police, we have a courtesy policy. That means they can't be discourteous at all, even in the face of extreme provocation. That is the exact wording of it. Even in the face of extreme provocation, they are not to be discourteous at all. And so, really enforcing the policies that are on the books, I think that alone, changing the way that police officers approach you is going to change the way that situation is going to end up.
Yeah, because I don't think they read that paragraph.
I don't think
so. I mean,
You should say what you want, man. They do what they want. It's like they
But
have
you
their
know
own
what?
set of
But
rules,
you know
and
what?
that way not worried about consequences.
But you know what? That's why
I've lived it.
I can dig it. But also, like I said, I have a police officer that thought the same way, and he has to go to court in Hingham on the 22nd at 2:00 to face charges because I'm showing our community we do not have to take that. They do have to adhere to their policy because if they don't, first of all, as the mayor, I'm in charge of the police department. So your chief is going to enforce this, or there'll be a new chief.
Right.
We have to look at these rules, these systems that we've been afraid of for our whole life. Let's keep it real. We're afraid of these systems.
and they're supposed to serve and protect.
They are supposed to serve and protect, but not only that, they work for us.
Right.
You know what I mean? If we work them. But they have us in a state where it's, I don't mess with the politics. I don't mess with this, and this will never work for me. And it will never work like that. Never.
Right. They've
But
conditioned us.
anybody you put in that system, you change the police chief. The next police chief still has to abide by. I wouldn't
Has
use
to
that
abide by
word.
what?
Not abide by it, but they usually flow with whatever's been done in that system. Not, you know what I mean? You can put let me try to explain this. You can put a new police chief every year, but it's already a system in place with the police that anyone comes in, I don't care who he is, has to. That's how it looks like.
That's
how
how
it looks like.
It does.
And it's
That
for
is how it
years.
looks because the people.
That's how it is
because
right now.
Because the people who are in charge of that have no incentive to change it. They have no incentive to change it. I do have an incentive to change it. You know why? Because they running down on my people. They running down on me. I just had a false charge put on me by the police. You know what I mean? And so when
And not saying you
When
can't,
you-
but it's just
when
hard
you-
to believe that no one has.
no one has because no one's gotten into that seat.
That's willing to make that change.
That's willing to make that change.
Well,
No
the
one
key
has
word
gotten
that
into
you
that seat.
used was incentive. If there's no incentive, if there's no directive that says, this is the culture that I want to see going forward, and these are the changes that I want to make. You're either on board or you're off board. That's how CEOs walk into office when they become the CEO of a new company, and they say, listen, tell me why I should keep you.
Mhm.
And I have seen, and I've been at companies where heads roll immediately, because if you're not going to be in compliant with what the new direction is, then you have to go.
And you see
So
that.
to the point of what
Yeah.
you're saying,
Mhm.
if you're walking in that door and you're making this mandate, whether you require it of the existing chief, and he chooses to either be on board or be off board,
Mhm.
he's dismissed. Next,
Mhm.
these are my expectations. Then the culture will eventually change.
But don't underestimate that code of blue, no matter who the police chief is. This is from what I've experienced, and I'm sure you all experience. Don't underestimate that when it comes to a police chief and the whole force. It seems like the force dictates what the policy should be for the police
One
officers.
thing to piggyback off of what they both said, like you said, with the incentive to be there, and we see this in sports and business. As soon as somebody buys, get rid. I didn't hire that coach. I didn't hire that general manager. So when you are in that seat, it is that incentive of, okay, follow what I say, follow. So I agree with what you're saying about, okay, it's going to be tougher to do it, but at least it starts with, let's have somebody in that seat that is willing to change the norm. But back to changing the norm too, I wanted to go back to this too. Is like, but this is going to be, this is labeling and going to both situations. The condition, the way we're conditioned to think. You see how he's sitting here almost defending the idea that, and it's true to his identity. Like he's saying, is whoever you put in that seat, they're still going to follow that same code of blue, right?
And it's not thinking. That's what happened.
It's
proven. Right.
So this is what I'm saying about how we have been conditioned, right? So when you've been told something over and over again, shown something over and over again, you stop to say, this is all that it's going to be. This is all I have. So I love the idea of, okay, let's think outside the box. Let me change the game. Let's put somebody in there that's going to risk it all, so to speak, and my way or the highway, or like, especially if you have the people with you. So let's get out of the idea, and if it's not you, then let's start the idea of changing our conditioned mind to start believing that, okay, like you said, we almost walk around with people that we're paying their services for that's supposed to support us, that we're looking at it like, oh, we're glad to have them. Like, it's changed. Like, yo, they work for us. They're supposed to treat us a certain way. But we walk around like, oh, I'm glad to have them around, like, and they take advantage of that position of power. So, again, back to the conditioned mind of, we start thinking differently, then that can stop the process. Like you said, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and I definitely agree with what Skid is saying, but also think that what you were saying was spot on. And at least
Can I say something to
Yes,
that
sir.
real quick? Skid, right? Now, growing up, did you ever feel, you ever get into a situation with the police where the police was 100% wrong?
Shit.
All the time.
All right, boom. Have they ever faced any consequences for that?
No.
Nope,
Not
that I know of.
I mean, that question is too vague, because I don't know what happened. Like, one of the officers could have said something when they got back, but from far as I know, no.
Have you pushed anything for anything that happens to the police?
No, I haven't. Nope.
Do you know of anyone who the police wronged them and they've done something back and something's happened to the police?
Yeah, maybe a few people who had a case. Yeah, maybe, yes.
Caught a case, the police did something really wrong, they got it.
Right.
Boom. And so that is our typical mindset. When the police do something to us, it's like, yo, either we can't do nothing or y'all fucked up, now I'm gonna sue. Right? So what I've taken from that is, I've looked at situations like that. I've looked at situations like, I've done 6 years in prison, right? People told me off the rip, bro, you'll never work with kids. You'll never work in a school system. I showed them otherwise. When the police first started coming at me, they told me, listen, bro, you might as well just chill, just relax, because they never lose. I said, look, I'm a little smarter than that. I'm going to show you we have laws on the books that work in our favor too. And not only that, I'm right. And so I went through all of that to show my community it's a new day. If we use our minds, the problem is we always get so mad that we lash out some way, and now we're wrong because we don't know what else to do. We get so upset, we don't have any other recourse, so we lash out. But now we found avenues of recourse. You know what I'm saying? They can't rule over the community like that.
But the direction you're going is you need the help of the community. What makes you think the mindset of the community is where you think it's at?
Brother, all I can do is my part, push myself out there, tell people what I'm willing to do, show people. People have seen for years what I'm willing to do. And if
I think so too.
I just have to have the faith in my community.
And I think you would be the best candidate for the job. And that's speaking from my lack of knowledge in Brockton, but my knowledge of you. And I feel good about what you can do. But all I'm saying is changing a whole city's mindset is that's been there for years and decades. It's just a tough task. That's all I'm saying.
But even with what you're saying, right? So I see what you're saying, but like even with that, right? That's still the mindset of okay, let's deal with the status quo. Like it is what it is, right? So if we thought like that, and I'm not saying that's obviously you just said that you think he's the better man for the job. So, but if we all sat there and thought the same way, like someone told you, yo, listen, just sit back and chill, like don't worry about it, and you're like, no, I'm putting my hat in the ring. So if we all sat there and just stay status quo, okay, this is the way it's gonna be, we'll never have change.
Never.
And like I said, even you just running, if that sparks my son idea to stop the run or his son, like we at some point it has to change. But
agree.
what you know.
I was going to say, being a resident here in Brockton, just the look of it is very disparaging. The cost of living, the housing market here, has definitely gotten a lot better. But what's attractive for people to move here other than the price of the house versus the price of a house in Boston? So why should someone move here when, like you said, there is no flourishing downtown, there is no nightlife? How do you make changes in that area to bring industry here, to clean up, the road? I mean, the whole Main Street looks a mess. So how do you, how do you bring change to develop that and make it better? I mean, there's a school right down the street that used to be a school. Howard School, I believe it's called.
Yep.
It's been vacant forever. So things like that, it can be very, depressing to look at when you're driving through the city and, you go one town over and their town is flourishing, they have industry, but it seems that there's some type of blockage when you come into Brockton where, there's something happening where industry either doesn't want to come here or it's very difficult for them to come here. So what is the plan to, engage for industries to want to come here?
The number one thing is, and this also has to do with sitting with the city planner and things like that. The number one thing we have to do here is look at making certain areas better. I will say that the current administration is doing some things downtown. Right now it's a mess because of all the construction. But they're doing some things to revitalize the downtown area. Personally, I think some more things can be done, and I think if we had different leadership in there, we'd be able to get things done faster because we wouldn't be depending on one group of people, one group of contractors and developers to work with and architects to work with. But when we develop that downtown, right, are we still going to be here? You know what I mean? And so I think it's more about getting to the culture of the city. I grew up here in the 80s. The city was clean. You know what I mean? They've allowed for the city to get like this. You know what I mean? As more black people, as more minorities moved into the city, it was like they just let the city go, right? That pride in where you live establishes the foundation first, right? To where you're not throwing stuff out your window, right? While you're driving down the street. But also, we got people who are paid to clean our city up, right? But we're sending kids out there for summer jobs. We're sending if you got community service, you got community service workers out there clean. Get out there and clean up the city. They've shown there are people throughout the city. Mike Smith, Brandon Scales, shout out to them. Shout out to Brandon on that new nomination for whatever film festival y'all got accepted to now. But you got people throughout the city who are showing the city, look, these areas need to be cleaned up, and they're organizing cleanups for those areas. The city should be on that. We got resources for that. And really delegating resources and putting them in the right spots, up in morale by getting out there and talking to young people, talking to residents, and saying, look, what do you want to see? We can make those things happen. It's not that difficult.
And my final question would be, if someone, wanted to become a part of the political entity in Brockton, how do they start that process? If they're interested in being a city council, if they're interested in really getting involved with what the city has to offer, what's the first step that they should take in order to be involved?
I think that's the best question of the night. Wow. The first step that you need to take is to go down to City Hall, go to the elections office, and ask to pull papers. If you're going for ward councilor, you would ask to pull papers for that ward. If you're going for city council at large, you'd ask to pull papers for city council at large, or mayor, or school committee. They'll give you these sheets of paper. You need 50 signatures. That's it. 50 signatures of residents that are registered to vote, and you're on the ballot. Beyond that, it's getting your money together, getting a good campaign together. If you're looking to make progressive change and you want to run for any city office, let me know. I'll help in any way that I can.
That's the mindset we're talking about. That mindset that she's talking about. But how many have that?
Yeah, anyway, because like I said, we are Plan B city, so we need city councilors. Our schools are in shambles. We just had our superintendent announce this week that he's going to double as the principal of Brockton High School.
Say that again.
Our superintendent announced this week that the school committee heard it, voted on it that night, and approved that our superintendent will double as the principal
And the basketball coach.
the largest high school this side of the Mississippi.
Is he gonna get a double paycheck?
He's not. He's not going to take the extra paycheck.
Is he selling candy in the backyard too? Like,
Is it because of this $8 million deficit that's going on and the layoffs and more coming?
If you want to know the honest reason of why this is happening, he's going to become the principal because there are a lot of people, a lot of teachers in Brockton High who are pissed off. You know what I mean? And so to settle the morale, they're not following the leadership that already exists. He's coming in because he has a lot of relationships, but not only the relationships, he's the superintendent, so you can talk trash all you want. You better speak quiet. Better keep that down. So the one thing, because I went to the school committee meeting when they announced it, and I went to the meeting that they had the next day discussing what they were going to do for the plans for next year and how this was going to work. The one thing that I didn't hear was how this was going to work for the students. I hear a lot about trying to appease parents and trying to appease adults and things like that, but I'm not hearing anything of how this is going to make the school any safer. You had a young lady, there was a 10th grade girl who spoke at the school committee meeting, and she spoke so eloquently, and she said, listen, you can't control our school now. How will 65 less staff members make it any safer for you to go to school? And so, I mean, that right there tells you enough. And so, we're not doing anything to progress our city. When they have the video out, the Superintendents Mission, to have students 90% proficiency in ELA and math in 3 years. And they had to put that out because they had to have a 3-year plan for the Student Opportunity Act money, right?
Their goal.
They had, so that's their goal now. We're going backwards, right? We've got a 30% retention rate in the 9th grade.
Like, that's not reality.
It's not reality, but as long as we put these videos out there and we tell you this is what we're gonna do,
It's big.
by the time you catch up, they're gonna retire. We just created 7 assistant superintendents in our district, and so these people are people who have been in the district for a long time. A couple people are new, but fiscal year 24, the money that we just got in 2 years ago, the fiscal cliff is fiscal year 24, right? So the fact that we're laying off teachers now, we haven't gotten to the fiscal cliff yet, is amazing. But that's reason enough for parents to say, look, get these people out of here. So in fiscal year 24, we won't be able to maintain their salaries, right? So what happens? They'll retire. But they'll retire now at an assistant superintendent's pension, and we'll be paying them for the rest of their life. This was one huge money grab. That's it.
And this is what you inherit coming into this.
Why would I want to? Why would I want to?
It's like Obama coming into.
But you see, the thing is, what makes me more prepared for the job is that I've been following this for a while, so I know what's happening. Like, people are catching up now and they say, "Oh my goodness, this is." But we've already. People asked me to run in the last election, and I declined. But I did say this is one of the most important elections we've ever had in Brockton.
The last election
We had, because that's when the money was coming in. I was like, listen. They're already mismanaging the money before it comes in, so we need to get in there.
That was more important than this election that you're running.
And so, well, it was, but since it was lost, now this is more. So last election, I just personally wasn't ready. I'm not doing this to put my name out there and stuff like that. People already know who I am. I wasn't ready. My family definitely wasn't ready. I wasn't in a situation. It would have been more about me than anything else if I would have decided to run last election. Now, there's no other choice,
Right.
honestly, because that money is gone, right? But our kids are still in school. Mine are.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so they are the ones inheriting this. Our young people and our citizens, our taxpayers, they're going to be paying for all of these mistakes. We wasted almost $60 million that could have went toward really affecting the culture of our city and changing things for us. So that we're not overpaying, we're not spending money to go outside of Brockton, we're not spending money to send our kids outside of Brockton. We have those extra students. They're saying that we lost almost $7 million because we've lost so many students from the high school. Who wants to send their child to the high school where kids are getting stabbed? There's gang violence rampant every day. Why would you want to send your child there?
But the property taxes, I think, are stupendous.
Mm-hmm.
To pay over $4,000 is insane. And then the trash is another thing that's stupendous. You can only put out
Those little barrels.
basically, yeah, but the barrels are designed so that you can barely get 2 tall kitchen trash bags in it. All of my, I'm serious. You
Yeah,
put
oh
one
yeah.
trash bag in, and then the second trash bag leaves the lid open. Just a tall kitchen
Yep.
trash bag.
Yep.
So it not only forces you to buy the city trash bags, but now the city
They
trash
raise the
bags.
prices.
Because now you only get 4 bags, and
Yep.
you can't find the garbage bags at any store on the north side of Rockland.
Right.
I had to travel all the way to the west side and go to 3 different stores on the west side before I finally found a store that had it, and it was a Shaw's. Make it make sense.
I can't.
The
That
money-
doesn't make
the money-
sense.
The money is poorly being invested.
And so look at this, right? What are we doing with the excise tax money that we're collecting? What are we doing with the marijuana tax money that we're collecting? What are we doing with these things,
Well,
right?
you're collecting more money on the property taxes than you are on the other
On the
things that
ex-
you just mentioned.
And
The property taxes is a big win. But to have a single family home, well, I want you to think about it. I'm in a single family home that's only 868 square feet. Why am I paying over $4,000 in property taxes?
right.
Imagine someone with a 2-family, a 3-family, a 2,000, a 3,000, a 4,000 square foot home. So the issue I have is to hear you say that they have all of these deficits is not only disheartening, but it makes me wonder, as the last couple of years, my property taxes have gone up because obviously the real estate has improved significantly in Rockland. So not only did they receive, I'm sure, all of this pandemic money from the federal government, but you're also increasing people's property taxes. Because your excise taxes is only based off of how much car
Car,
is. And I
right.
think the excise goes more so to the state than it does local,
No,
right?
no.
It goes to the city. Come on, that's $80, $100, couple of $100, but the couple of $1,000 for all of your housing?
So you're looking at, and that was coming up, but you put all that money together, right? And then you ask yourself, where's it going? Right? And that's why we have to get into these books and we have to really understand what's happening with our money. Because we live in Brockton. Brockton is like a small town, right? And so with that, you have the small town dynamic. The mayor, he's little Bobby Sullivan. His father was a history teacher and he taught everybody in the city. And so everybody loves little Bobby Sullivan, our school superintendent. He's little Mikey Thomas. His father was a teacher and everybody knows him and everybody loves him. And he can do no wrong, even though he just fumbled the bag on $60 million. Oh, but he's Mike Thomas, though. So that's the problem. We're in this little small town, and we're not holding people accountable to their mistakes. You're telling me people you can make a $60 million mistake with impunity? Where does that exist?
Definitely
the world.
So, I mean, we definitely think that, you was able to express a lot of, your frustrations, but also some ideas. And we definitely want to just, from Master Uncovered to you, just want to say thank you for coming out, man.
Thank you for having me on your platform.
Man.
I appreciate you, man. Every time I come here, it's like I gotta be prepared, man. Just tell the people, man, just to like I know Jack, I know people's, man, and just being around his people, it's always sharpening my skills, going into politics, like you said, I'm not a politician, so there are things that I have to be more on point about. And every time I come around you, every time I come around your family, I can guarantee that I'm going to have to be on my toes. I'm going to have to be mayoral ready. And for Mask Uncovered, you're doing the city a service by helping to get me more prepared for this mayoral run
And be a better representative for our city.
And so I want to thank y'all.
Definitely, man. Like I said, man.
Yo, Max and Color Podcast, man. We're doing this for any and everybody, man. Like, we definitely want to always make sure we
Give a shout out to Bananas Liquor, one of our sponsors. Our
Get
only
it.
sponsor right now.
And
But
get it.
we're expecting more to come. But definitely reach out, man. Like, and before we sign off, just do you want to give a link to anything that you have going on, or like how can people reach you? Are you on at least Facebook or something like that?
Yeah, you can always reach me, John C. Williams, on Facebook. Please pay attention to the Facebook. There's a lot of things coming out in the next couple of weeks. The website will be going up, and other links will be going up. we just want to make sure when we roll this campaign out that we're going to be the best representatives for our people that we can be.
And again,
Remember, Mask Uncovered, man. We serious, we funny, we gritty. Like, this was a serious, you know what I mean, interview right now. Tomorrow, you know, we on our shizness.
Yeah.
Next week, we on the shizness. You know what we got here. Mass murderers, like, that's how we get down over here, man.
definitely stay tuned, man. And always, man, like, share, subscribe, man. Pass it along, tell a friend, man. But definitely want to say thank you to our audience that was out there that brought
Great
it out,
audience,
man.
yes.
Beautiful. I was out there.
Beautiful woman and my family, man. Like, so,
Definitely, man, signing off, man. Yo, subscribe, like, and share. Good night, y'all.
Peace.